Good evening and welcome. I'm Bill Maley, Brighton Town Supervisor, and it is a great honor for me to preside over such an august event, and I want to welcome all of you that are here to celebrate with us as we swear in Chief Charles David Cathaldi to the position of Brighton Police Chief. I'd like to call the Honor Guard to lead us in the pledge, and I would ask everyone that is able to please rise. And we will be facing that flag, please.
Detail, present, arms. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order, arms.
You may be seated. Well, again, I want to welcome all of you tonight. Fortunately, we invited everybody except the fire marshal tonight. So we're so pleased to see such a full room and such a full house. Just yesterday, we celebrated the career of Police Chief Mark Henderson. And I know everyone in this room owes a great debt of appreciation to you, Mark. Your tenure was an outstanding one. Tonight, we're here to celebrate and welcome and swear in our new chief, Dave Cathaldi. Chief Cathaldi is, as you can read from your program, has a career in law enforcement and in the military that is a skill set that on paper is dramatic, but none of it is as dramatic as the person that Dave Cathaldi is. Dave Cathaldi is a man who is steeped in the tradition of community policing. He is steeped in the tradition of leadership in this department and in this community, that every member of the community is important. David Cathaldi will lead this great group of men and women as they serve and protect our community. And I could not be happier that this town board unanimously selected David Cathaldi to be our next chief. Obviously, we have my colleagues on the town board who are with us tonight, along with town clerk Dan Amon, town attorney Ken Gordon. We have a number of others who are here tonight. Our district attorney, Sandra Dorley, is here. Thank you. Deputy County Executive Tom Van Strydunk is here. Tom, thank you. Supreme Court Judge, State Supreme Court Judge John Ark is with us. We have representatives from Brighton Volunteer Ambulance, including Michael Pollack. We have representatives from the Brighton Fire Department, including Chief Aaron Hiller. I believe we have a number of other chiefs who are with us here tonight. I'm grateful for all of you that are here. I'd now like to call up soon-to-be Chief David Cathaldi. Chief.
Mr. Supervisor.
Bring your family up here as well.
Sure. Sue's a listen, it's meant to make.
And if you would please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Charles David Cathaldi,
I, Charles David Cathaldi,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of Chief of Police of the Town of Brighton,
of Chief of Police of the Town of Brighton,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations, Chief. Captain Dessain, I direct you to lead a salute to the chief.
To the Brighton Police Department, prepare for salute, please.
Tonight, this is the safest place in Monroe County.
Detail. Attend. Hut. Present. Armed. Order. Armed. Detail. Back in ranks, please.
I'd now like to call up Chief Mark Henderson for some, before I do that, I just very quickly, because I may not have, I wanted to make sure there are a couple of other people that I want to acknowledge. Former Town Supervisor Sandy Frankel is here with us. Former Town Council Member Louise Novros is with us. And I also want to let you know, Chief, that I heard from former council member Ray Tierney today, and Ray is thrilled. I know you had an opportunity to speak with him, but Ray is, sends his congratulations, sends his best wishes. He is very confident in your abilities, and that the town of Brighton is in great hands with you as police chief. So now, Chief Henderson.
Seems like the theme of false start. It was only a suggestion that you join me at the podium. So, as you see tonight, this is a tradition that is steeped. It has military heritage where they salute the chief, the new chief. If I may take an honor and second chief and salute you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Tom Vocal would like to have been here tonight. He's currently in Vermont. He sends his regrets. He would be joining me at the podium right now to talk about what a great selection the town board made in selecting David Cathaldi. David is the best person for the job. He'll bring the department to newer heights. You'll all sit back and watch. I don't have a formal speech prepared. I know you do, but I will just say that it's been my honor working with you. It'll be my honor watching you grow as a police chief. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for all your help.
And now it's my very great pleasure to introduce for some remarks our Brighton Police Chief, Dave Cathaldi.
First of all, I want to welcome everyone. There's a few chiefs from outside the county. Chief Mark Tomes, North Police Department. Retired Chief David Dalton. Thought I saw, there's Judge Jim Morris. Retired Judge Jim Morris, legendary here in the town of Brighton. First Assistant District Attorney, Mark Monahan. And I think there's some others out there. I think we got everybody.
Judge Falk and Judge Morris are both, not only Judge Jim Morris, but Judge Karen Morris are here as well.
Thank you. I want to welcome everyone. I was waiting. I'm deeply honored to stand before you today as the 7th Chief of Police of the town of Brighton. I would like to thank Supervisor Malley and the entire town board for entrusting me with the responsibility to lead the men and women of this organization that I have served for the past 20 years. I'm humbled by the confidence that you have placed in me and accept the responsibility as your next Chief of Police. Chief Henderson, where'd you go? Okay. I cannot express what you have done for this agency and the positive impact you have had on this community. Under your leadership, you have taken our agency to a whole new level of professionalism. Mission accomplished, sir. I personally cannot thank you enough for helping me become the best officer I could be. You truly made me live up to my potential, and for that, I'm eternally grateful. I also wish to express my appreciation to the greater Brighton community for their words of support and prayers. I know tonight's event is being viewed as far away as across the pond. I stand before you as the grandson of immigrants who came to the United States in hopes of a better life. I'm the proud son of Samuel and Patricia. This opportunity is an awe-inspiring accomplishment that I could not have achieved without their support. I only wish my father were alive to be here and my mother were healthy enough to attend tonight's ceremony to witness the results of their parenting. Because of them, I truly am a living example of the American dream. To the Honorable Town Board, I've heard former Supervisor Frankel and current Supervisor Malley say our department is second to none. Those words ring true with me, and I promise never to do anything to tarnish the reputation of this department. I'm keenly aware of the trust you put in me and in my leadership. I will work with you in seeking our common goal to provide the highest level of service to our community. To the community, where I stand today is where I started my journey 20 years ago when I was sworn in right here as a newly minted Brighton police officer. I want to assure you that I truly understand the meaning, from those to whom much is given, much is expected. I promise to work tirelessly to fulfill my obligations to provide a safe community in which you and your families can thrive. The community that we serve relies on the police as a force of good. This is the only basis upon which we can build respect and mutual trust between the people and the police. Our police officers serve with honor and dignity, and I want to assure you that I will continue to hold our members to the highest standards. The names and faces of the members of our department may change, but the consistent and predictable quality service we provide to the community will not. To the men and women of this agency, past and present, the challenge faced by the police in America today is one that you understand only too well. I want to acknowledge the efforts of the hardworking men and women, sworn and civilian, that perform a difficult job with the highest standards to keep the people of Brighton safe and to make this community a beacon for all to admire. I look forward to working with all of you to continue our journey to make this a reality. I will be counting on you to provide the highest level of service to our community. It is only through active collaboration between the community and the police that we can create lasting change. I ask all of you to treat every day as your day to make a positive difference in our community. My pledge to you is that I will support you when you are just and take corrective measures when we fall short of expectations. With that said, I will never forget what I ask of you each day, which is, if necessary, to put your life on the line for this community in which we all have sworn to protect. Remember, we are only as good as our last call for service. All we have achieved together can be lost in one incident. Take care of each other and do your level best each and every day. In closing, I cannot end this moment without thanking my family, my wife, Suzanne, of 28 years, who has been with me throughout my entire law enforcement career and endured all the craziness that it entails. To my 3 daughters, Alyssa, Samantha, and Megan, who have had many events in my absence. You'll be all right? I'll finish up real quick. Just remember, behind every good cop is a supportive family. I want to thank everyone in attendance here tonight. May God protect the men and women of this department, and may God bless all of you. Thank you. Detail. 10 hook. Left face. Fall out.
You are all welcome to stay to learn more about the 2020 Town of Brighton budget.
I have to go.
And other matters that will no doubt be of interest. However, I also want to invite each of you down to the police department in the public safety wing for a reception to honor Chief Cathaldi. We'll give everybody a minute and then we'll be resuming the board meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming.
I thought Cody went straight back. I know, exactly. That also. Judy.
in the theater, they stand up too tight. So my daughter sings chorus, and you can only every time you go see she laughing at me. I never heard any of that. Some kids do it. Here. Nice to meet you. We're working with you. I'm gonna say hey. Have all the highway guys. You too. Some of the highway guys.
Samantha, my middle one. I'm aging better.
Enjoy. That is a great.
Have a number of smarky comments about the lights are on, so why would I not see them?
Now I'm in trouble.
Alright, I get one on this phone. I'm supposed to be taking me in these, right?
Where would you like me? Not the front. I'll give you another one here, too. Sorry, Jim.
I got that one.
It's good. Being a town engineer, it's been, I've been doing it a year now, so. Well, you're doing personnel. Yeah. Well, I had it in my previous position. What were you before? I was a principal at MLB.
What's that?
Principal at
Oh, engineering.
Alright.
So I did that. So,
There we go.
so no, it's a good fit. It's just,
Yeah.
But it seems like you like each other.
That's the big
Blood?
well, I try.
Well, they
Got it.
do. Put out there. So it's
Great town.
yeah.
It's a good town.
It's a great, a lot of tradition. Yep.
lot of tradition. We should see a picture of all the judges.
I think that's Bill.
Former president that are still alive, I think. And, you know, there's a lot of continuity. I was here 33 years. Karen's been here about 25. John Arthur was here about 18.
Don't get too rowdy down there.
Hey. Yeah. Hey, you're a beautiful family. David, you got a beautiful family. Three girls, no boys. Well, it took me 2 wives
I think he and
3 girls to
Dan
get my
had
boy.
talked
One more shot. I gave up to him. I said, where those girls get that lovely red hair? Eddie McGee.
I think maybe Monday. I think maybe he already has. For now, he is, yeah, but they're going to be moving. Ah.
It was fair. I mean, I went and opened those doors. I could barely feel anything anyway.
Bobby's very comfortable.
Yeah, the lobby's good. Just a little loud.
Nice to see you.
Of course. So good to see you. I do.
I know, actually, it's
Escape before we can introduce you. That's all right.
go back.
Justice for life.
Really? So
Once everybody starts to get out of here.
I know, but I'm letting you know I did it, so if someone's witching about it.
Okay. Wonderful.
We are going to resume the town board meeting here in just a moment. I know there is a reception downstairs in the police wing to celebrate Chief Cathaldi's swearing in tonight.
Oh, no, next time.
And I'm grateful for everybody that has been here. I'm particularly grateful, as I said, for everyone who wants to stay and hear about the town budget in 2020. We'll be getting started in just a moment. Well, we can leave one door open.
yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
Well, they can close one more of those.
Yeah, let's,
Maybe this one for a while?
Can we get open
nah,
that one?
we'll just get
This one over here.
that one.
Once you close this half, they'll move away. Hard to say.
Okay, I think we have the sound, and we can continue on with our board meeting. I do want to acknowledge our ASL interpreters who are here tonight, Susan Pence and Melissa Lanty. Thank you very much. Tonight we're going to start the meeting with a presentation concerning the tentative 2020 town budget, which is being presented to the board this evening and to the community It will be available on the town's webpage either tomorrow or Friday. But I want to talk a little bit about the budget, discuss the data, but more importantly, how we got to this budget, what this budget means for the community, the process by which we adopt the budget, and where we go from here. So first, I want to start with some data. This tentative town budget will comply with the New York State tax cap. The proposed townwide tax levy for the operating budget will increase by 7.4 cents per $1,000 of assessed valuation. That's approximately 1.77%, or $14.74 per year on a $200,000 home. It's important to note that Brighton remains fiscally extremely sound. Just this week, the New York State Comptroller issued that office's annual fiscal stress report, and once again, as it has each year, determined that the town of Brighton is not under fiscal stress, and in fact has almost as low a fiscal stress score as it can recognize. Moody's, the well-known bond rating agency, rates the indebtedness of the town of Brighton as AA2, a very, very high debt rating, and that debt rating has enabled us over the years to borrow as needed on a very attractive rate. I would note that our debt levels are far below those of our peer communities, the ones that begin with the letter P and otherwise, far below those other communities. Finally, our financial statements are audited each year, and each year our independent auditor determines that those financial statements are prepared in accordance with the Government Accounting Standard Board's requirements. So all of those independent agencies recognize the strength of town of Brighton fiscal affairs, but this budget and the budget that we adopt each year is critical in ensuring that we remain fiscally strong. The process that we use is also important because it's an open process. It's a process that far exceeds what state law requires. It's a process that begins in the spring of each year as each department prepares capital improvement plans that are consolidated into a capital improvement plan, a 3-year capital improvement plan for the town. That CIP takes a longer-term approach. It allows us to plan ahead for major expenditures, infrastructure, equipment, technology, and the like. Having a CIP is something that is recommended but not required. The Comptroller recommends it. It is something we have done here in Brighton for many, many years. That CIP is reviewed not only by this town board, and it was in fact approved in August, but it's also reviewed by the Town Board Finance Committee and by our Volunteer Sustainability Oversight Committee and Budget Review Task Force. Both of those volunteer boards bring people together with specific financial and sustainability expertise to evaluate our capital expenditure plans, to make sure they're consistent with our financial needs, our operational needs, and particularly in the case of the Sustainability Oversight Committee, with our commitment to sustainability and our commitment to recognize the crisis that is climate change in our country. Now, having completed and approved that CIP, we also conduct an open and transparent approval process for this operating budget. In August, the town board held 2 workshops at which each department head presented their proposed budget request. Since that time, the Finance Director Paula Parker and I have reviewed each of those departmental requests, and while all of them reflect legitimate and very real needs and goals of those departments, we have also recognized the restraints of limited resources, the need to keep our taxes in check for our people and to comply with the state tax cap. So we have had to make revisions and cuts to those requests. We will hold 2 full town board budget hearings at our next 2 meetings on October 10th and October 23rd. I would note that our next town board meeting and the first budget public hearing will be on October 10th. That's a Thursday night. Yom Kippur will end on Wednesday, and so we have moved the meeting to Thursday night. At the first meeting, Finance Director Paula Parker will make a more formal presentation on the budget, going through it in some detail. Now, I want to talk about, as we do each year, because this budget process is not an easy one. We face a number of challenges. Probably our most important challenge is Brighton's tax base and the growth thereof. Brighton, as we know, is a very prosperous, a very desirable, a very attractive community, but it's also an inner ring suburb. It's an inner ring suburb that has limited amounts of developable land left. It has commercial properties that are being reviewed and in fact, and in some cases have been redeveloped. And that commercial tax base is important because in many cases, commercial properties impose less of a burden on town and education and other services than residential properties. For example, as we all know, offices and retail facilities don't send any kids to school. So when a major project can generate significant school tax revenue, that's an important plus for the community at a time when we know that our Brighton Central School District and to some extent the other school districts that serve our community, great school districts, are fiscally constrained themselves by a state foundation aid formula that does not adequately reflect their real needs. So to make sure that our schools are adequately funded and to make sure that we are able to provide the services that this community has come to expect and identify new services to enhance the quality of life here in Brighton still further, it is important that we face that challenge of a tax base that is largely flat and recognize that smart growth, redevelopment of commercial properties is essential to our future. It's a process that we will continue to do using careful environmental scrutiny, careful scrutiny under either traditional or incentive zoning to make sure that this community continues to be as fine a place as it always has been. Now, property taxes are not the only source of revenues for the town. They're the largest source, but there are a number of other sources. We receive significant amounts of sales taxes generated from throughout Monroe County through a sales tax formula that shares not just Brighton taxes, but as I mentioned, taxes from throughout Monroe County. We also receive a portion of mortgage taxes on mortgages that are recorded for properties in the town of Brighton. Those may be sales of homes or commercial properties or land, but they can also be refinances of, again, typically homes, but also potentially commercial properties. Those mortgage tax revenues are very much interest rate sensitive and volatile as a result. We have made conservative estimates of very modest growth in those two areas in preparing this budget. We also have other revenue sources that are relatively stable. We do have concerns about one state program, the AIM program, the Aid and Incentives to Municipalities program. which has been dramatically changed, actually cut by the state of New York with promises that it will be reinstated. So all of those are issues and challenges that we face, and I believe we have made conservative, prudent estimates in preparing this budget. We also work hard to keep the cost of government in check. That's the other side of the budgeting coin. In particular, shared service programs. We are parties to a number of shared service programs, whether they're in the areas of law enforcement and public safety, public works, insurance. All of those programs enable Brighton and the other communities that are part of those programs to operate efficiently in a cost-effective manner. I do want to note one shared service program, however, that the County of Monroe unexpectedly cut, and that is a program under which the County of Monroe has guaranteed property maintenance charges. We have striven hard for many years to address issues of property maintenance and zombie properties. In extreme cases, we have required property owners to demolish properties or to perform maintenance on their behalf when they have not done it, whether it's lawn mowing or other work. For decades, the County of Monroe has guaranteed payment of that work if the taxpayer has failed to. The County of Monroe suddenly at the end of 2017 chose to discontinue that practice, and the towns of Brighton and Arundecoit have sued. We believe that this is an important lawsuit, but more importantly, we believe this is an important shared services program, and we will continue to work hard to make sure that that program is reinstated and continues for the benefit not only of Brighton taxpayers, but taxpayers throughout Monroe County. Finally, I want to thank our staff. All of our department heads work incredibly hard to put together budgets, knowing full well that they work at a time where they are constrained in the funding needed to provide the services they know our residents want. I want to particularly thank our finance department leadership, Finance Director Paula Parker and Assistant Finance Director Suzanne Zaso. They have worked hard again this year to prepare this budget. It's a budget that I believe maintains and enhances services in Brighton while at the same time maintaining fiscal responsibility. That is the balance we work to strive for every year. That is the balance I believe this budget accomplishes. And I look forward to hearing your comment, the community's comment, at our next two public hearings on the budget, October 10th and October 23rd. Thank you very much. I do want to make just a couple of our housekeeping announcements first. Get to the right ones here. In case of an emergency, we do have a lot of law enforcement and public safety people in the room tonight, but if for some reason we are required to evacuate the room, you will hear the town hall emergency alarm system. If you hear the alarm system, please exit the auditorium immediately, either through the exit door to my right. If you use that door, turn right, go down the stairs, out the back door of Town Hall and away from the building, or through the double doors in the rear of this room, through the lobby, out the main front doors of Town Hall, down the steps, and again, away from the building. If you're watching us at home on cable channel 1303 or live streaming, we welcome you. If you're watching on Spectrum, and if you experience technical difficulties either with the audio or the visual, please contact Spectrum at 756-5000. That's 756-5000. As we always do, we will be starting our meeting tonight with our open forum. And whether you're here in the room or watching us remotely, we welcome you to participate in that open forum. If you're at home and would like to call in during the open forum with any comments or questions, that number is 303-3060, 303-3060. If you're deaf or hard of hearing, you can use that same number, 303-3060, to use your video phone to call in with your questions or comments. And if you're here in the room, I would ask that you raise your hand, wait until I acknowledge you. You can come up to the podium and share your comments with the town board. With that, I will now begin the open forum portion of the meeting. Is there anyone that would like to address the town board during the open forum? Judy.
Judy Schwartz, 179 Ashbourne Road. I have two things to announce tonight in chronological order, not necessarily importance, but chronology. From October 10th through October 20th is the Image Out Film Festival. I brought programs that are out on the table. It's a really great lineup this year. I personally feel that it's probably the best kept secret in Rochester. It's an amazing festival. There are a variety of movies, and I really encourage people to take a look at the guide and perhaps pick one or two movies that you can go to. On the weekends, there are 4 a day, so you can find something I hope to fit into your schedule. And in the evening, they usually start around 5:30, and then there's another one around 8 o'clock. So try it. It's really wonderful.
And Judy, the locations?
Well, they have it
there are a
Little
number
One,
of-
Little Two, and the Dryden, and it's all listed, okay, so that you know where you're going to be going. And tickets are $1 less now up until about maybe let me see. I don't want to say, but like maybe the beginning of October, third day into October, and then they go up another $1. But it's a wonderful time. Closing night party is at Jiva, which should be really, really nice. So that's kind
I
of
know
exciting.
there's an opening night party as well.
Night of the
and
town board meeting, I know the
Yes.
10th at Volo downtown, I know. Well, if we get out early, maybe we can get over there. I'm going to try that. And then October 30th, a Wednesday night, Bright Neighbors United is proudly presenting a candidates night at 7 o'clock in the boardroom at the administration building next to Canandaigua National Bank. We usually go to Council Rock, but Matt Tappan took me around and oh my goodness, there's no way, absolutely no way. They're amazing to be able to go through what they're going through, but it'll be worth it in the end. So October 30th, 7 p.m. in the boardroom next to Canandaigua National Bank. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy, and thank you to Brighton Neighbors United for organizing that. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board during the open forum? Mr. Zoglin?
Thank you. I'm Jason Zoglin, 311 Rhinecliff Drive. And if it's your lucky night, I have handouts.
Thank you.
Oh.
Dan, if you're nice to Ms. Wills, she might share with you.
Hey, Jason.
Yeah.
Christine, right there.
She can share.
Thank you.
I did it for the board members. I wasn't thinking of big.
No, that's fine.
I feel bad using that much paper already. So, I didn't realize what a big night it was here. That's a lot of cops. Whew, but it was nice. My main reason for being here tonight is to present a petition some of you may or may not be aware of, that myself, perhaps led, and with some other concerned neighbors, which involves a long vacant house on our block, on our street, Rhinecliff Drive, which is 385 Rhinecliff, and the Rhinecliff Monroe Plaza. By way of some bookkeeping, a couple things were called to my attention. I've spoken at at least one other board meeting, and then I went to the planning board meeting regarding the redevelopment at the Otter Lodge end of the plaza, which was on June 19th, I believe, this year. One bookkeeping thing is I got a message from a member of the Wolk family. I think it was Brendan Wolk, I can't remember. But I was very careful when I presented my things I did often use the term Wolk Plaza because that's kind of the vernacular we've used over the years on the street. We knew it was owned by a Wolk, so we call it Wolk Plaza. But I never used the term and was careful, but I can see how somebody might confuse it using the Wolk name with the Wolk Foundation. This has nothing to do with the Wolk Foundation. And any of us that enjoy the JCC and other things around here know that the Wolk Foundation does a lot of good work. So I don't want that to be a confusion, and I assured him that I would make that distinction. The plaza, the CEO of the Rhinecliff Monroe Corporation is a Wolk, Mr. James Wolk, but just because he's a Wolk doesn't mean this has anything to do with the foundation. So let me make that clear. I think we had a good response to the petition. I looked through it before I printed out with the comments. I only found one thing that was problematic, that somebody had accidentally must have hit the button twice. So I think the total we got was 246. I'd say we did three things. I'm not a social media person. This is the first time I've ever used social media. I used the Nextdoor website or whatever to spread the word on our petition. There was word of mouth, just chatting with friends and others, and my neighbors doing the same. And I did pass out, have to admit I got worn out. I did about 2/3 of our neighborhood, which is Bel Air. I don't know, I was scarred from selling light bulbs when I was a Boy Scout. Going door to door is not my thing. I didn't knock on people's doors, I just put them not in the mailbox appropriately, in the screen door. I did pass out flyers. And like I said, I only did my neighborhood, about 2/3, and none other. And that was how we got the word around. So, maybe maybe I'm overconfident. I think had I had the energy or maybe nerve to knock on more doors, I think we could have gotten an even better response, but I was pretty happy. We had a lot of enthusiasm from people, both online and the Nextdoor and in person. So what I'm asking you is take time. Most of the people didn't write a comment, they just signed it. Some people did. I think they're worth reading. The general theme is pretty much that they were on board, that there needs more to be done to get commercial property owners, in this case the Rhinecliff Monroe Plaza and the attached house, to be improved. Another important point is that this wasn't done for the town, just the town. I'm certainly copying the town now. I did mail a copy just today to Mr. James Wolk, and this, I really consider it equal. If anything, maybe leaning a little more on him to say, hey, because one of the things I learned from talking to some of you and others is that there's some things the town can't do. There's some things that I may not like and think are good enough, and we'll have to find as neighbors maybe a different way if we feel strongly enough to put pressure on a property owner, for lack of a better term, at least let them know that we're not happy. I will tell you, though, with a fair degree of confidence, that the opinion of the Rhinecliff Monroe Plaza is pretty low. I had things happen that I never expected. I've lived here a little over 20 years on Rhinecliff. I have neighbors that have lived much longer. We're lucky to have a lot of new families. The street is full of kids again, now that mine are gone. But they've lived there, I bet you they've lived there well over 30 years. And she actually came running out of her house. She didn't approach me, she approached my wife, which says, hey, talk to my husband, this isn't my thing. But she said she lives very close to, she can look out her window and she's looking at 385 Rhinecliff. And she said, thank your husband. Tell him thank you so much for doing this. This has been bothering us for years. So what I'm saying to you is you may not agree with my, what I say about code enforcement, but if you don't think that the people are concerned about that in the plaza, I can tell you from the bottom of my heart, you're mistaken. They do. They resent it, that it's run down the way it is. Okay, so I also wanted to say, I know Bill and I had this discussion by email, I think. I know the supervisor signed the petition, and he explained to me that his purpose for doing that was to add his comments. Obviously, not to endorse it, I guess. He disagreed with some points. I will say right now that I don't agree with what you said, but we can hash that out another time. The one thing, and I think we cleared this up, is there was some insinuation that there was some anonymity to this. I just want to say, this is my own pride speaking. My name was on the top of the petition. Every flyer that I hand out to neighbors had my name and phone number on it. And I told people, for example, if they don't have a computer or access to the internet, they were welcome to call me directly. And I would add, one lady, a senior citizen, called me and asked me to add her name because she didn't have a computer. Third, on the next door, my foray into social media, I certainly used, of course, my name to put it out there. So one thing I will say, for my own ego, I guess we all have an ego, is if I have a concern or a complaint or I'm bringing something to the attention of the town, I may have a lot of energy, animation. I will admit that sometimes I'm angry, but I will never, ever hide behind something. You will never see something that comes from me that doesn't have Jason Zoglin on it. I promise you that. And if you want to come back at me or you disagree, or it doesn't have to be confrontational, maybe you want to help me, which several board members have reached out, and I appreciate that. My doors will be open and my phone's usually on. So that's the bookkeeping thing. In response to the petition, perhaps, I believe with the cooperation of the town, shortly after we started collecting signatures, there were some improvements on the house at 385 Rhinecliff. Supervisor and I discussed that a little by email. New fascia, gutters, etc. And I have to admit, when I drove over here tonight, there was a flower pot hanging by the... In 20 years, I have never seen that. So I wrote to Mr. Wolk that we appreciated any efforts, of course, and I would agree that that house... I didn't agree before, because there was complete fascia missing, and there were squirrels in and out of there, which is a direct code violation. But I would agree now that the house... Anything else we want done, we're going to have to make noise. I believe you guys did your job on that. Whether it's you or the attention that what he was motivated by, I don't know. But we got to take what we can get and be appreciative of that. I wish he would fix it up to the level it could be occupied. Who wants a vacant house on their block? But there's limits to what I know you can do, and I appreciate, I don't want to seem unappreciative of that. The plaza, I know they're working on the Otter Lodge. I had some disagreement about that. I went to the planning board meeting, and I've encouraged, again, I've asked Mr. Wolk in my letter with the petition, when I went to the planning board meeting, I have to admit I was fairly disappointed. Not in the planning board. I thought they asked some good questions. But boy, did their lawyer, he made it clear. I think the facade was a little misunderstanding. That now you've explained to me that they're doing a facade all the way across the front. I wasn't clear at that meeting, but when a couple people asked him if they were going to go do anything kind of beyond the Otter and half of the former karate studio, boy, was he non-committal. He said, we're taking half of the, and they asked him, well, what are you going to do with the other half of the studio? He said, well, we might use it for storage. He was very firm that they weren't doing much past that point. And I stood up here with all my pictures blown up and mounted on cardboard and showed him several, which we may debate this, what I consider fairly egregious code violations, and boy, he was not impressed. He made no indication that they would do anything beyond what they're going to do to open I guess it's the tap and mail it. I have to say there are still blatant code violations. I looked yesterday, took more pictures, but you've seen the pictures. There's still squirrels going in and out of that building. There's blatant big holes, damaged gutters. Interestingly, at the planning board meeting, Mr. Boehner addressed something, which is I think it's a roof drain that runs off the side, and some PVC was sitting on a couple 5-gallon buckets, and it's been pouring into the drive-through between the Dunkin' Donuts and the former Otter Lodge. There's huge potholes there. I can tell you my coffee habits. I hit them all the time. But I don't understand why they don't complain. I'm not sure who owns the drive-through. But Ramsey asked him, geez, do you think you could do something? This was June 19th. What's today? September 25th. I noticed they made a change. The buckets fell over, so they stuck a piece of wood holding up the piece of PVC. He's done nothing to remedy that, and the road continues to deteriorate. Same thing with open junction boxes and other things that I personally, I did ask Mr. Guyon, who was kind enough, I sent him the pictures to refer me to the town code. I asked him, what should I be reading? Chapter 129 of the Brighton Town Code. And, so I don't come in here and say there's violations when there's not. I mean, I'm literate enough to having read it, and there's violations, and we could go over that. I don't want to bore you now, but there's ones that are just not. There's some that you might say, well, it's not that bad. I might say it is that bad. There's others that are just, if you can read, there's town. It's clear. That's what I would hope the town can help by pointing those out, and so. We can do our part by encouraging, whether it's a petition or other means of making the neighbors' voices heard. I guess I'm asking, what can you do? I would say our main goals are, I know you just talked about things in the budget, so that was kind of interesting, especially with regards to the county. I realize it might not be so easy and it's financially a factor. So I understand that I don't understand that stuff. So I admit that. I mean, but I still feel like that we can improve the code enforcement in Brighton. I could, and I've done them at other times. Multiple examples of very disappointed neighbors, and boy, did I get an earful with this petition. Encourage commercial property owners to do the right thing. I know there's formal ways. If there's informal ways, a phone call, anything you can do to help in that regard. I personally do feel that code enforcement in Brighton is not up to par. I'm just being direct and honest there. And respect and encourage this kind of participation so we can figure out rather, I know there's reasons why we can't do some things, but why we can do them. As little as it is, I'm a property maintenance guy. I'm not, jumping for joy at what the guy did on the house. I'd love him fix it up so it could be occupied by a family, but it's something. And so if we can work together to continue that, that would be a good thing. So thank you for your time. Appreciate your patience.
Thank you,
I really appreciate if you take the time to read some of the comments, just so you know where I'm coming from. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Zoglin, and we will add, I'll ask the town clerk to add this as an item of communication, and I do want to share with the residents there, just so there's no question in anybody's mind, as part of the approval for the redevelopment of the sort of northwest end where the Otter Lodge used to be located. As part of the approval of that, the owner of the plaza will be required to renovate the facade, which is terribly dated and has long been something we've been looking for. Although it's not a code violation, it is simply just not very attractive. And one of the things we do agree on is that that facade is going to be repaired, and that will be an improvement to the building. And I see Mr. Zoglin giving me the thumbs up, and I'm giving him the thumbs up. Mike, I know you've had interaction, and I believe Ed and Ramsey have as well. And yes, the house has been improved, and obviously as the redevelopment process continues, I'm confident, but I would ask that you continue to make sure our code enforcement folks, keep an eye on it and make sure that the work is done to code, as I know they
absolutely, Bill. We'll continue to monitor the house. We have been, we have Ed drive by it every now and then just to make sure things are staying maintained.
Great, thank you.
And Bill, you mentioned the facade. Is it the entire facade?
The entire facade is going to be replaced.
That's the condition.
Yes.
Good.
Yep. Of course.
that I learned. One of the things, Bill Price, is Bill Price at Planning Board? My name. I thought he also asked really good questions. Mrs. Civiletti, they did press him a little bit, and I was happy with that. I wasn't happy with his response, but one of the things Bill Price used was something, talking about continuing to fix it up, so maybe some of the other spaces would be occupied. That dojo had been empty for about 5 years, I think, but then there's Welpley and Paul moved out, and interesting thing, actually, my mother-in-law goes there. My wife takes her there, and we live right around the corner, so it was very convenient. And when she noticed that they told her they were moving, they're still in Brighton. It's down Monroe Avenue. My wife said, "Geez, I'm so sorry you're moving. My mom needs her glasses adjusted every 6 or 7 days, it seems." But the woman that my wife talked to, and I'm not going to quote anybody's name because I don't know, but she said, "Well, we don't want to move." My wife said, "Well, why are you moving then? We love having you right here." And she said, "Because we spend a lot of time on our displays and the roof continually leaks, and we've complained to the landlord numerous times and he won't fix it, so we're moving." They got good parking there, it's a nice location. So I thought when Bill said, geez, and one of the things he said to them was, we hate to see empty storefronts in Brighton. That, you always got to be, this is a little bit secondhand, but I generally trust my wife and her visit to Welpley and Paul. They moved because this guy doesn't keep up his property. She said our displays have been wrecked by rain coming in. I mean, I don't know if that's a code violation or not, but in terms of a goal of keeping storefronts full, that could help in that regard too. So I had to add that. Thank you.
But again, yes, Chris, the facade will
Thanks, I
be
just wanted to
will be
clarify.
redone, the entire building.
Very good.
Is there anyone else that would like to address the board during the open forum? Hearing none, then we will continue with the agenda. I would ask for approval of the agenda with the addition of Mr. Zoglin's material. And I also want to add the item that I referenced from former council member Ray Tierney, his congratulatory message to Chief David Cathaldi. I didn't have a chance to read it before, but I'll read it now. David, as I am on grandpa duty, I am unable to attend your special night. This note is fitting as it will be one of your last you receive as a captain and one of the first you'll receive as chief of police. Thank you for all you've done for our community through the years. You are perfectly suited to continue the legacy of Tom and Mark, with whom you have worked for many years. They set a standard that now will have your imprint. Best of luck, Ray Tierney. So I would ask that and Mr. Zoglin's material be added to tonight's agenda as items of communication. With that, can I have a motion to approve the agenda with those additions?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeFonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Maley?
Aye. Also want to note that we have the 2020 budget here that will be appearing online, and that the presentations will be made at our next 2 town board meetings. Moving on to public hearings. We have one public hearing tonight concerning the proposed tree removal in Corbett's Glen Nature Park. Dan, has the necessary legal notice been given in this matter?
It has, Mr. Supervisor. Apologies, I had that pulled up and I accidentally closed it. I'll find that shortly, but it was in the Brighton Pittsburgh Post. I'll get the exact date in a moment.
Thank you. With that, I declare this public hearing to be open, and I will ask Mike Guyon just to briefly describe the tree and why we're holding this hearing.
Sure. We had a resident who expressed concern regarding the condition of the tree. After we received that concern, we contacted an arborist to take a look at the tree. The arborist concluded that the tree was unsafe. This tree is located within Corbett Glen Park. Generally, when trees are in the parks and they're unsafe, they generally fall with no harm they fall into the woods and they're left. In this instance, the tree is, if it falls when it falls, at some point it will fall onto the trail and it create an unsafe condition. So we thought it best to remove the tree. It's a 40-inch cottonwood. It's got scars along the bark. So we took it to the tree council, took it to the Public Works Committee, and because it's a significant tree, it's 40 inches in diameter, we need to hold the public hearing tonight. If the board sees fit, once the public hearing ends and the board sees fit to authorize its removal, we'll have the tree removed.
Thank you.
And Mr. Supervisor, the notice was in the September 12th edition of the Post.
Great, thank you very much. Is there anyone here that would like to comment on the proposed tree removal during the public hearing? I know we have material on this tree, but and we'll have the opportunity to discuss it after the public hearing is closed, but is there anyone who would like to comment on this tree? Ken?
Just a question for Commissioner Guyon. Did we do the mailing of the notice of this hearing to the neighboring property owners?
We did. We notified everybody who bordered the Corbett's Glen Park.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board during the public hearing? Hearing none, then I declare this public hearing to be closed. You have a motion here. If someone would like to make that motion, Chris, and then we can have any discussion.
On the matter before us for proposed tree removal in Corbett's Glen Nature Park, I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Manley?
Aye. Thank you. Can I have a motion to receive and file communications in addition to the two items we discussed, the material from Mr. Zoglin and former council member Tierney's congratulations. We have a communication from the Deputy Town Clerk, David Marcus, announcing his resignation. I don't think retirement is the word. I don't
retirement
see Dave.
Is the word.
Is retirement, the word?
Is the word.
All right. I just don't see Dave as a retiring kind of guy. But for these purposes, retirement is the word. Dan, if you'd like to talk about Dave, because if you don't, I will.
Yeah, no, it's, him and his wife had long had a goal of, retiring by a particular age so they could, travel and enjoy all the hard work they've spent their lives doing, and decided that this was the appropriate time for them to do so. His wife had retired earlier this year, even though she's much younger than he is. They're excited, and I think it's it's going to be a change. Certainly Dave has been integral to the success of my office through the years, and I know one of the things that we talked about early on is all too often, and it's much more true today than it was in 2012 when he started, or when we both started. But government work and government workers get a bad rap, and it's very unfair. The folks that are in this building and down the street at Highway and Recreation work their tails off for the people of this community. Unfortunately, here in Brighton, I think largely that is recognized. But in the larger scale, they're all too often denigrated, and there's snide remarks about civil service and whatnot. And one of the things that we talked about starting out is he wanted to help kind of change the narrative on that, and that's something that I've strived for with all of my staff, is to make sure that we're giving everyone a positive experience of government when they come into the building, and I think Dave truly has felt that he's been able to do that, and it's been very rewarding for him. And I think it's a good, again, change is hard, but I think it's exciting for Dave and Angelica that they're able to go on this next chapter, and travel plans are already in place and starting very soon after he departs. So I think it's good news. It's good news overall for them.
Well, Dave is a Renaissance man. He is definitely not someone you can pigeonhole, but your office, and I know that's something you have taken very seriously, and Dave has been all in. Dave is the deputy town clerk, but everyone in that office, when there is a need, steps up and does what is needed, whether it's dealing with someone, helping someone at the front desk, working on freedom of information requests. The title means very little to any of, whether it's you or anybody that works in your office, and you have that customer service ethos, and you are often the first point of contact for so many of the people that come into town hall, and Dave has been such an important part of that. And he brings, not only that commitment, but just the breadth of knowledge that he has about, I know, when we were looking at our town code as it related to various animals, including bees, Dave brought his expertise as someone who himself keeps bees. So many times, Dave will just surprise you with the breadth of his knowledge, and of course his service not only to the town but to the country. David is a guy that I know all of us are going to say thank you in a big way on October and before October 3rd, which is his last day, and we're going to miss you, Dave. So with that said, can I have a motion to receive and file those items of communication?
So moved.
Second.
Any further comment? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Well, I'd like to vote no on that retirement part, but congratulations, Dave. I vote aye. Committee reports. Community Services Committee. Robin?
Thanks, Bill. The Community Services Committee met on September 18th at 9:30 a.m. at the Brookside Recreation Center, 220 Idlewood Road. Among the items we discussed were 2 items of communication, one from Barbara Bowerman regarding the Pocket Park at the end of Bonnie Bray, the Beautification Committee, and the Monroe Avenue GIGP, Green Infrastructure Grant Program project. In addition, there was an item of communication from Misha Cohen regarding the safety of wastewater grates throughout Buckland Park for wildlife. Under items of continuing business, our Park Superintendent, Matt Beeman, indicated that the Corbett's Glen South End border fencing is nearly complete, and work is beginning on the north end border fencing. With the fencing extending all the way to the falls area, it significantly disambiguates the intent of the fencing and seems to be working at keeping people out of the water and on the trail. We discussed areas of concern that were raised regarding the Lehigh Valley Trail, the sight lines on the trail in areas where there are S-curves and may consequently pose a potential risk have been reviewed by our park superintendent. And the trail is heavily traversed, but there does not appear to be sufficient or insufficient lines of sight. The purchase order for the gazebo repair at 12 Corners Park has been approved, and work by the vendor, 5 Star Construction, is to begin soon. Expected completion is sometime in October. We had an update on playground renovations. Work continues with Game Time to develop a 3D model of the proposed play structure renovation for Meridian Park. Town staff hopes to perform the installation with a representative of Game Time in order to conserve costs. It appears that a swing set and small play structure will be installed. There is potential that Game Time will increase matching grant funding from 50% up to 70% if the PO for the equipment purchase is received prior to December 31st, and we are working to achieve as much bang for our buck as possible. Replacement doors at Buckland Park have been installed and are working properly now. In our recreation programs, the fall registration is underway and going very well. Our after-school program in particular is up and running and has picked up a lot of renewed interest and momentum this fall, for which we're very grateful. The recreation department is working to find another staff member to work on Mondays to accommodate the increased demands for the program. Our recreation department will continue to utilize Rec One / Civic Plus as its online registration provider for the time being, and negotiations for an amendment to the current contract are underway. Our special event planning for the fall is also underway. Fall is a very busy time for our recreation department with many Halloween-related themed events. We also entertained a broad discussion of numerous topics related to the farmers market, including ongoing Brighton Central School District construction, athletic events scheduled during market hours, bathroom availability, etc., and the potential impact of those various factors on market operation. Also related to our farm market, our winter's farm market is moving forward with implementing phase 2 of the project to include site work and interior finishes. Inside Architecture is drawing up documents to define the scope of work for bid procurement. An update to our Inclusion, Diversity, and Equity Advisory Board. The board has met for a second time and is determining a regular schedule for upcoming meetings. Positive feedback has come in about the momentum of the group and potential for community engagement, and the group is developing actionable priorities for inclusion in an Inclusion, Diversity, and Equity Action Plan for the town of Brighton. An update to our Community Choice Aggregation Law. Work on development of the contract with Jewel Assets as the CCA program administrator and Rocktricity as the local community outreach entity is underway. The Memorandum of Understanding municipality supervisors are meeting tomorrow, September 26th, with the CCA program administrator to set goals and discuss preliminary outreach efforts. An update to our community, our grassroots community organization, Brighton Safe Streets for All. The Complete Streets Makeover Design Contest update. There was a walkthrough on August 26, 2019. Walkthrough of the site submitted for consideration in that design contest. And potential areas of interest for design focus were discussed with Reconnect Rochester representatives, graduate students from the Cornell Design Connect program, the Brighton Grassroots Safe Streets for All community group, and other community stakeholders are all brainstorming on the project. The goal is to make the walk and bike commute to school safer for students attending Brighton schools and for all pedestrians and cyclists in the 12 Corners area. Community stakeholders are focusing on all points of intersection between vehicular and pedestrian or cyclist traffic along Monroe Avenue that are identified as areas of concern. There is an identified need for more safe crossing points along Monroe Avenue at entrances to neighborhoods in particular. The team was at the Brighton Farmers Market this past Sunday, September 22nd, to gather community input there as well. And it was suggested that the team reach out to Sheila Gaddis, a former town council member, to connect them with historical data that was accumulated during the Monroe Avenue charrette process. An update to our council member on the corner. The September weekends were revised for this month to be September 15th and September 29th, Interest in the program remains strong, with 42 people visiting at the last event. And we did have one action item that we discussed in committee. That is a sample soap program to collect and redistribute sample personal care items to organizations that are in need. With regard to our Brighton Complete Count Committee, with respect to the 2020 census, Susan Perry of the Rochester Monroe Complete Count Committee staffed a booth at Brighton Homecoming and will also visit the Brighton Farmers Market sometime this season. In addition, the Rochester Monroe Complete Count Committee would like to schedule at least one public forum in Brighton to raise awareness about the census and decrease the potential for undercount. We are working to establish a date. We also discussed the Brighton opt-in to rent stabilization, or the Emergency Tenant Protection Act that was passed in July at the state level. And we reviewed a request for applications with regard to anti-displacement learning network. Tenant protections in Brighton were discussed at the August meeting, but we completed some additional research relating to the tenancy rate in Brighton in particular. According to Niche, our rental versus ownership ratio is 43% rental versus 57% ownership. And we are trying to determine the current vacancy rate in Brighton, as the most recent information that we have to work from is from 2012, after the last census. Currently, we are logging only 2 affordable housing options to rent in Brighton. So we're looking at identifying grant opportunities to help us evaluate where we stand and what work needs to be done. The current identified grant has an October 31st deadline. Housing affordability and current zoning codes and the limitations that they present for diversity were discussed in the context of the IDEA board meeting. Under new items of business, we noted that the Community Services Committee website could use an update. The current site is dated, and we're working toward doing a refresh on the content and linking to and identifying current endeavors on the web page. We also discussed Indigenous Peoples Day and the potential for a land territory acknowledgement in the context of the upcoming celebration of Columbus Day and Indigenous Peoples Day. There is a proposed proclamation to start official events and meetings with a statement to acknowledge the indigenous peoples of the area. Finally, we discussed the mobile African American history display that we began work on some time ago. We're re-emphasizing efforts to try and have something tangible for African American History Month, or even potentially Martin Luther King Jr. holiday. In closing, I'll just highlight some of our upcoming events. We have the semi-annual Electronics Recycling and Document Shredding event at the Brighton Highway Department, 1941 Elmwood Avenue, that will take place on Saturday, October 12th from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. The sensory-friendly trick-or-treating festivities will occur at the Brighton Town Hall lobby, 2300 Elmwood Avenue, on Friday, October 18th from 4 to 5 p.m. Our Fall Festival will take place here on the Brighton Town Hall campus and Memorial Library, again, 2300 Elmwood Avenue, on Saturday, October 19th from 10 to 11:30 a.m. Our Halloween Happy House at the Buckland Farmhouse, 1341 Westfall Road, will take place on Friday, October 25th from 5 to 6 p.m. Our Haunted Grounds at the Buckland Farmhouse will take place again at the Buckland Farmhouse, 1341 Westfall Road, on Friday, October 25th from 6 to 9 p.m. And finally, our semi-annual Drug Enforcement Agency Pharmaceutical Take-Back event will be at the Brighton Town Hall Public Safety Wing, 2300 Elmwood Avenue, Saturday, October 26th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. The next meeting of the Community Services Committee will be on Wednesday, October 16th at 9:30 a.m. at the Brookside Recreation Center Multipurpose Room. As always, members of the public are welcome to attend.
Thank you, Robin. Finance, Jason?
Yes, Bill, the Finance and Administrative Services Committee met on Tuesday, September 17th. Each of the items that were discussed in committee appear on tonight's agenda and will be discussed in further detail. And in addition, the FASC Committee also discussed the 2020 budget requests and the process and schedule of the 2020 budget presentation, which was discussed by Supervisor Maley earlier tonight. And we also discussed the advertisement and recruitment of a vacant position of laborer in the Highway Department due to a transfer of an employee to the Sewer Department. Our next meeting will be held on a different day than normally scheduled. We'll be meeting on Wednesday, October 2nd at 8:30 in the morning. Our normal time conflicts with the Rosh Hashanah holiday. Therefore, we'll be meeting Wednesday morning, October 2nd, 8:30 in the morning in the Stage Conference Room here at Town Hall, and the public is invited to attend.
Thanks very much, Jason. Public Safety, Christine.
Public Safety has not met since the last town board meeting. The next meeting will be Tuesday, October 8th, 8 a.m. here in Town Hall in the lower level meeting room, at which the new Chief David Cathaldi will be in attendance. The public is always invited and encouraged to attend.
We'll sock it to him.
Oh, yes.
Public Works, Chris.
The next Public Works meeting will be October 8th at 9 o'clock. We have a monthly meeting, and we reported on the last monthly meeting at our last town board meeting. And please attend.
Sounds good, thank you. New business, Jason, reading and approval of claims.
Yes, Bill, earlier today, I reviewed claims totaling $1,182,971.15. Notable claims include to B.R. Johnson, LLC, in the amount of $23,500, representing payment for the purchase and installation of doors at the Buckland Park Lodge. Also to Henderson Truck Equipment, in the amount of $31,087, which was payment for the purchase for a new dump body for highway truck number 62. Also to M&T Bank in the amount of $38,749.37, representing debt service payment of the Elmwood Avenue Relief Sewer Bonds. Also to Plant Concepts, Inc. in the amount of $24,608, representing payment for services per board-approved bid for park mowing and maintenance of the Monroe Avenue GIGP project plantings. And finally, I hate to mention this one, but to American Rock Salt, LLC, in the amount of $60,647.92 for purchase of road salt for the upcoming snow season. The claims all appear to be in order, and I move that they be approved.
Second.
I would note on that last chilling item, the reason that's being done now, and this is something that we try to do each year, we top off our supplies because price increases go into effect like September 1st, so we always try each year to top off our supply under last year's pricing. Sadly, we know we're going to need it.
Right.
So,
although fortunately, the long-range forecast does not show any snow or ice in the next 10 days, so that's a good sign.
True that. We have a motion and a second. Further discussion on those claims? Hearing none. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Maley?
Aye. Christine.
All right. The next matter before us seeks to authorize the I jumped ahead. The next matter before us seeks to authorize a budget transfer in the amount of $20,000 from the Police Department overtime wages account to the travel expenses account, in $10,000, and other contract services account, $10,000, for travel and contract expenses associated with an ongoing criminal investigation. I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Maley?
Aye. Why don't you do the next one too?
Sure, since I was excited about it. The next matter seeks to authorize the supervisor to enter into an agreement in an amount not to exceed $510 for professional services for 2 veterinarians and 2 veterinarian technicians for the annual rabies clinic. I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
This is something we do each year, and as noted in the communication, the price is not increased. It's a great service, helps families make sure their pets are protected against rabies. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Glad to see a blank contract in there. Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Jason.
Yes, the next matter seeks to declare one 2007 Dodge Charger as surplus to be sold at auction. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
A pretty sharp car, but it's been used well. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Robin.
The next item seeks to authorize the supervisor to execute an agreement with Rochester Monroe County Youth Bureau for the town's 2019 funding in an amount not to exceed $7,085. I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
This again is a program we have done for many years, promoting positive youth activities with the school district. The Brighton Believe work. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Why don't you do the next one too, Robin?
Sure. The next matter seeks to authorize the supervisor to accept cash donations in the total amount of $3,899 to fund performances for the Sunset Serenade concert series. I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
And I'll just mention who they are because I do get to thank each of these sponsors at every one of those Tuesday night concerts, and people really love them. But thank you, Wegmans, ESL Federal Credit Union, Friendly Senior Living, St. John's Living, the Summit at Brighton, and 2 new sponsors this year, 2 great Brighton businesses, McGregor's Grill and Tap Room, and the Rochester Regional Health Immediate Care Center, which is newly opened in the 12 Corners. Thank you, all of them, but especially those 2 new sponsors. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Yes, Noble Vibes will be back again next year. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Jason.
Yes, the next matter seeks to authorize the supervisor to execute an amendment to an agreement with Civic Plus for registration software support and services. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
This is a matter that we certainly gave some discussion to, and Becky and I have had some discussion. Ultimately, the decision was that this was our best option in terms of software to run our program registration and related services for the Recreation Department. And so it was the recommendation to proceed and continue with this vendor.
Supervisor, if I may, just so the board is aware, I'm still working on tweaking the contract language to make sure that it's consistent with what this board intends on an ongoing basis for cost and cost adjustment, and the ability to get a refund if we do cancel.
Okay, good. What is that a calendar? Is it a calendar year contract?
Calendar year contract. They're switching us from a month-to-month billing cycle to an annual billing cycle. It's not a calendar month. It's an anniversary. It's a 12-month contract with an anniversary date based on when the supervisor signs the contract. It's going to start up then.
Okay.
So we'll have
What you're telling me is I'll sign it January 1st.
That would be convenient and easy to track, but it doesn't really matter because there's adjustments that are built into the contract for an annual audit conducted by the vendor. I did literally just add some language so that if the volume of proceeds or the net proceeds go down for any reason, that our price should also go down. Right now, the contract was written so that there would only be the possibility of an increase in that price. And then Paula and Becky had inserted some language about getting a pro rata refund of our annual fee if the contract is canceled for any reason in the middle of that 12-month term. And so I've just tweaked that language a little bit as well.
Good. Well, we'll take action tonight and await the final contract. Thank you. Further discussion? Hearing none. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Bailey?
Aye. Chris?
Next item is to authorize a budget transfer in the amount of $21,500 from the Highway Department Road Repair Sewer Consolidation Repair account to the Road Repair Drainage Materials Supplies account, $5,500, Road Repair Road Materials account, $11,000, and Road Repair Uniforms and Clothing account, $5,000 for additional road and drainage materials and personal protective equipment. I move we adopt the resolution before us prepared by the attorney for the town.
Second.
And I know this is sort of truing up at the end of the year, some of the actual costs of our highway repair work over the year. But Mike, if you want to talk about exactly what the purpose of this is, and of course there's protective clothing involved.
Yeah, I think it's spelled out pretty well in the memo, but we have done a lot of paving this year. We've done a lot of chip seal. We're finishing up the season. We've got 2 more little paving jobs to take care of, and this will help us do those 2 jobs.
I saw some nice commentary on the Sylvia work that's being done in West Brighton right now, and I've gotten some very, very positive feedback on the work that you did on Village Lane, that you and I spent a lot of time working with the neighbors there.
Yep.
And also, again, I want to mention, because I talked about it in the budget discussion, but the work you did with Norm Jones in terms of partnering with the city. So we paved Village Lane and Southern, in that case it was Chip Seal, and Kimberly, which all run into Highland, which cross the city line just before they get into Highland. We did the work on the whole street, and the city paid us a small part of the price for the work that we did in the city, so that each one of those streets is completed right through to the end instead of having that seam at the city line. So that was, those are small intergovernmental cooperative efforts, but they really make a difference in a job looking good. So thank you for making that happen. And thank you, Norm, who does a great job for the city as well, for making that happen. So we have this motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Bailey?
Aye. Why don't you do the next one too, Chris?
The next item is to declare a 2005 International dump truck as surplus to be sold at auction. I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second.
Discussion? 14 years old. It's a lot of hard miles, and not so much the miles, it's just the work.
Yep, the hours.
Yeah, the hours. We have a motion and a second. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Bailey?
Aye. Why don't you do the next one too? We got a lot of public work stuff today, Chris.
The next is to approve the appointment of a laborer to the sewer department. I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second.
This is, we are appointing Mike Allen. Mike has been a highway laborer, and he wanted to make the move over to the sewer department, and he's going to do that, which necessitates, was mentioned in passing earlier, that we're going to be looking for someone to fill his position in the highway department. But I know you were, if he's going to leave the highway department, you're glad he's staying in the organization at the sewer department, because I know you think highly of Mike, and the terms are set forth in the letter. I'm sorry, the motion was made by you, Chris, and who seconded that? Jason, thank you. Further discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye, and one last public works matter.
The next item is to declare a leaf vacuum and specialized dump boxes as surplus to be sold at public auction. I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second.
This is some equipment that we used. We were sort of on a trial basis. After some discussions with the Sustainability Oversight Committee, they recommended that we give it a try, and we did. And I think, Mike, what you and your people found is that while on the surface using a leaf vacuum looks like a great way to get the leaves up, there were really some it didn't work as well as we expected, particularly with wet leaves. It doesn't really work at all with anything bigger than, it obviously doesn't work with brush, and in fact, it's really single-use equipment. And one of the things your department should really be commended for, you use equipment whenever possible year-round. You find tractors do, they may be doing brush pickup in the summer, and then they're plowing sidewalks with the sidewalk plowing attachment in the winter. And our dump trucks are spreading some of that nasty salt in the winter and picking up, doing whatever they're doing all summer long. So you've done a great job, and your predecessors have done a great job of making sure our equipment multitasks. The other downside with this is that it was single use. And so we've decided it was a good experiment, but one that's not going to be part of our long-range plans, and we're going to sell the equipment.
And Bill, this was something I know that had been promoted, I believe, first by Sustainability Oversight.
Correct.
And other community groups that saw them being used in the city particularly, and other towns. And the thought was that perhaps this was more efficient. And I appreciate Mike's department taking the opportunity and the burden of trying out a new piece of equipment. And as you say, it's the fact that it's single use made the decision easier, along with the issue of efficiency. So we gave it a shot, and hopefully we'll dispose of it effectively.
We have that motion and second. Any further discussion? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Jason.
Yes, the next matter seeks to authorize the amendment to the non-represented employee salary and wage schedule by moving senior payroll clerk from Group 3 to Group 4. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
And the reason for this change is really that additional responsibilities have been placed with the position of senior payroll clerk. And to reflect that, Group 4 is a better representation of the scope of work she's doing now, and she does a great job. We're very happy the move has happened, and it's all good. Thank you, Paula, for putting that, proposal together, advancing her, not only, the scope of what she's doing, but we always try to, whenever we can, employee development. We saw it tonight, the development of Dave Cathaldi as he moved up through the ranks in the police department, and where we can, find ways to grant larger responsibility, broader responsibility to our employees and make them, more effective. We try to. Good job. Thanks. We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Robin, can you do the next one, please?
Sure. The next matter seeks to set a public hearing to adopt a local law authorizing the town board to adopt a budget commencing January 1st, 2020 that may exceed tax levy limit as defined by the General Municipal Law, Section 3C. I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Now, as you heard me say during the budget message, we do not expect, and this budget as it sits today, does not exceed the tax cap. It is our hope, frankly, that we don't even need to hold this public hearing, but we wanted to do it as a precaution. The state does take a look at these budgets, and there are some moving parts, particularly the one that I mentioned, the AIM funding, which is a potential $227,000 hole. That if in fact we were to lose that funding, not only would it impact us this year, but it would also impact us next year. So as a precaution, not because we expect to, in fact, I do not expect to exceed the tax cap, but we do want to schedule this public hearing as a precaution.
When should we hear on that?
We don't know.
Sometime before January.
But we will. But I guess the issue is if we hear about it before, if something happens, and that would seem to be the most likely thing, before we, as we always do, and this is one of the things we, year in and year out, we think it's important to adopt our budget before elections occur in November. So it is our expectation we will adopt the budget at the second board meeting in October 23rd. And that's the date that this public hearing potentially would be held. And if nothing happens that requires a change, in that case, we might simply cancel the public hearing. So, but again, it's our expectation right now. The tentative budget before you does in fact comply with it is under the tax cap. So, and we may hold the public hearing anyway. I see you pondering that, Ken. I was reading your mind. One former town attorney to another one.
I'm not sure about canceling the public hearing, but you certainly could.
But I don't want there to be any confusion out there.
Choose not to adopt the local law.
This tentative budget that is here tonight meets the tax cap. It is really primarily because of that uncertainty over the AIM funding that we're taking this precaution. So we have Robin and Jason on that motion. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Manley?
Aye. Christine.
The next matter seeks to appoint Mary Katie Hanrahan of 52 Babcock Drive to the Board of Assessment Review to complete the term of Rose Botner of 135 Rowland Parkway, effective October 1st, 2019 through September 30th, 2022. I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on that. First, I do want to thank Rose, who has been a part of the Board of Assessment Review. Thank you for your service, and thank you to Mary Katie for being willing to step up and serve out the rest of that term. We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Manley?
Aye. And why don't you do the last one too, Christy?
Sure. The last matter seeks to reappoint Andrew T. Dollinger of 329 Glen Road to the Board of Assessment Review, effective October 1st, 2019 through September 30th, 2024. I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second.
Thank you, Andrew. Andrew is engaged in the commercial real estate business. He has been a valuable member of the Board of Assessment Review, and appreciate his willingness to continue on. We have a motion and a second on that. Further discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Manley?
Aye. Matters of the supervisor. First, we do have the August 2019 expense and revenue report. Can I have a motion to receive and file that report, please?
So moved.
Second.
Dan, please call the roll on that.
Councilmember DeFazio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Allen?
Aye. As always, the finance director will give a more detailed report at one of our October meetings when we have the third quarter done through the month of September. Leaves, lawn debris, yes. Leaves are going to be coming soon, but we're still picking up lawn debris. And again, I want to remind people, and I really do think I'm pleased because I'm seeing more and more people putting their lawn debris, and I hope this carries over to the leaf season, the leaves on the grass, whether it's between their sidewalk and the street pavement, or if they don't have a sidewalk right there on their front lawn. Our crews have been getting around very steadily throughout the year. It's a lot of work, and it gets always tougher at leaf season. But I do, again, want to remind everybody, please don't put them in the street. They're a hazard to particularly to cyclists, but also to drivers. They can cause drainage issues when they're in the street. They can cause neighborhood flooding if the storm drains get flooded. So please put those leaves and lawn debris on your front lawn. Also want to mention earlier today I was at a ceremony at a longtime family business that several of their locations are here in Brighton. The first business location of the Hurlbut Care Communities was the Hurlbut Nursing Home on East Henrietta Road at Metro Park. And they were celebrating 50 years tonight. So that's now a 4-generation family business. I had the pleasure of being there along with the deputy county executive and Senator Funke tonight, congratulating the Hurlbut family on 50 years in business, and particularly in my case, 50 years in business in Brighton. They also own the Brightonian here and the Woodstone Manor on, did I get that name right? I think that's right, on South Clinton Avenue. So three facilities, 50 years at the Hurlbut. That's all I have tonight. Ken, matters of the attorney.
Yes, I have two fairly brief matters. Earlier, Robin was talking about an update on the CCA, and I understand from your report you're going to be meeting with the other town officials?
There is a meeting tomorrow.
Okay. Well, what I wanted to update the board on is that I've been meeting with the other town attorneys, working on the contract with Jewel. We've seen a draft of the contract. We spent an extended telephone conference last week going over the contract. The town of Arundecoit attorney, the town of Pittsford attorney, the village of Pittsford attorney, and I were all on that call. What we're trying to make sure of is that the contract is consistent with the proposal that Jewel made and the expectations that I think each board set relative to the delivery of services that were promised. And we have some work to do, I'll say. Right now, Laura Smith, the attorney for the town of Arundecoit, is summarizing the comments that were made by the 4 attorneys during that phone call. She's going to be sharing that out with our group, and then I will in turn share it out with the town board, so you're aware of what issues we're working on.
Great. And I'm not surprised that from a legal perspective, you have a lot of work to do. I think from an operational side, we're going to have a lot of work to do because this is, although it has been accomplished very successfully in Westchester County, and we are optimistic that it will be a great opportunity to dramatically increase the use of renewable energy, specifically electricity initially here in Brighton and in the other participating communities. It is a relatively new plan, and we're talking about a very, very significant undertaking. So just as you're doing a lot of legal work, I think one of the things we want to talk about is, the fact that there will be a lot of the need to bring our community and the other communities up to speed about what community choice aggregation is, what it isn't. A lot of people think it's, that's that Fairport Electric thing, and it's not. What it is an opportunity to buy in bulk renewable, 100% renewable energy that residents not only of Brighton, but also of the town and village of Pittsford and the town of Arundequoit, unless they opt out, will be able to use as their primary electric source. But that involves things as simple as, what are we going to call this thing? To the whole process of community notification. So while you're spending a lot of time on the legal work, I think we're going to be spending a lot of time on the operational side and making sure that when we are ready to go live, and it's not going to be in 2019, but when we are ready to go live, that we have something that is as seamless, frankly, as our G&E service is today. Obviously, what will happen, you will flip a switch on your light switch and you will get electricity. The difference is the source of that electricity and the process by which it is procured. And like so many other things, the goal is it's cheaper when you buy in bulk. And we've already had some indication that there might be some other municipalities that are interested already in piggybacking onto this. And I think that would be a great thing as well.
To put a slightly finer point on a couple issues, just so that you can perhaps touch on them at your meeting, one of our main concerns as a group of attorneys looking at the contract was to make sure that the work involved in taking this program to the community and educating the community, and in responding to the inevitable questions that will be raised, will be something that does not fall upon our municipal staff.
Absolutely.
We were concerned with how the contract was written, that was not very clear, and we're trying to make some clarifications. But that is a point you may wish to discuss at your meeting. And I would say the other thing is that there are provisions in the agreement that deal with the what you've been talking about, which is the power of bulk buying, 100% renewable. And then there are the provisions in the contract that talk about community-generated renewable energy. Right. And that is a separate but very important element. I know that Jason and Robin were very interested in, and as they were talking with the Jewel representatives, and something that just needs to be fleshed out a little bit better.
Yep.
So, the other thing I wanted to raise is I will be absent from the next town board meeting. My apologies, but my wife is dragging me to China next Thursday, and I will be there through the 20th of October. She is a, as some of you know, she is a ardent student of the martial arts and holds a second-degree black belt in karate, and we're going actually with a group of her fellow kung fu students to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the introduction of mantis-style kung fu to southern China, and she's going to go study with the Grand Master in Hong Kong, and then we're going to go travel north to the original Shaolin Temple in northern China, and I will be trying to stay out of trouble while I'm in Hong Kong.
Well,
so you get a new car and she gets a trip to China.
So at least
both.
Yeah. So that's fantastic. That's great, and we will.
So I apologize, to say that his wife is more badass than he is.
True that. All right. Thank you, Ken. Matters of the town clerk. Top that.
School taxes.
Bingo.
No, just a reminder that the due date is coming up on the 1st. We do have the drop box at the rear of the building if you're not able to make it during work hours. Obviously, mailing payment is always, works as well. Though again, as always, we advise folks to not use electronic bill pay for this matter. We have to go by the postmark on the envelope, and the class of mail that is used by the bill payment services does not receive a postmark. So just today we received one where somebody mailed the date on the check was 3 days, so it was September 12th, ahead of the installment due date. We received it today. And unfortunately, that resident is not going to be able to use the installment program, and they are going to have to pay in full on Tuesday. I'm not a conversation I'm looking forward to, needless to say, but unfortunately, that really does illustrate really why we try to tell people just don't use the online bill pay for your taxes. It works until it doesn't, and you really have absolutely no control over it. The banks have, teams of lawyers on retainer that have written user agreements that you clicked through when you signed up for your account and inevitably did not read, that absolve them from any responsibility for this. And you're going to end up picking up the tab on the interest. Or in this case, again, this individual is going to have to now come up with all 3 payments next week, and it may be a hardship for them. I don't mean to make light of it at all, but
serious.
It really does illustrate the importance of why we stress that over and over and over again, to try to educate folks to not use that form of payment. But otherwise, again, the due date on Tuesday, and we'll be busy the rest of the week and Monday and Tuesday. But I've got the reserved parking signs out there to try to make it easier for you to get in and out as quickly as possible. I know they really came in handy today because court seemed to be particularly jumping today. There must have been a lot of traffic tickets issued, a month ago for them to all show up today. But
thank you, Captain Desane.
But folks really did. People have been following the signs, and the folks showing up to traffic court, are there because they have difficulty with signs and road rules. But they've been honoring these signs, and we're grateful for that. And we'll be here to help you out.
Great. Thanks, Dan. I do want to acknowledge Captain Mike Desane, who's here tonight. Mike, you were in large part responsible for both tonight's wonderful ceremony honoring Chief Cathaldi, but also yesterday's ceremony and luncheon honoring Chief Mark Henderson. And I appreciate not only that, but all of the work that you do, and as was said tonight, I've said it before, I'll say it again, every chance I get, the Brighton Police Department is second to none, and your leadership and the leadership of everybody in the department is gratefully acknowledged by the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor, and town board members, thank you for the support and allowing us to do this in honor of our past chief, Mark Henderson, and our new chief today, Dave Galdi. And following police protocol and allowing us to salute them and welcome them in, so we really appreciate that support.
Thank you.
Very impressive.
Matters of the town board. Christine.
Yes. So the Brighton Safe Streets for All and Cornell Design Connect project continues. As Robin reported, the students from Cornell were at the farmers market this past Sunday collecting community input. The next step comes next month. There will be a community input session that was just locked in today. It'll be held on Sunday, October 20th. The time frame is afternoon. We'll lock down the time as we understand the shape of the workshop more specifically. The community can expect to see notice of the workshop through social media, and should be on the town calendar shortly as well. Just to reiterate, the purpose of the Brighton Complete Streets redesign exercise with these students is a collaboration with Reconnect Rochester, as well as the town, and Brighton Safe Streets for All, focusing on accessibility and safety improvements along the 1 mile section of Monroe Avenue just outside of 12 Corners, that is not falling under the purview of this project, up to the Allens Creek Westfall intersection of Monroe Avenue. That's 4-lane area sees about 14,600 vehicles per day, and it functions as our main street, so it should be walkable and bikeable because we have many schools. We have 3 schools and numerous small businesses along the route that would benefit from more foot traffic and less vehicle traffic flying by at high rates of speed. But most critically, the intersections along there are pain points for walkers and bikers, and we've had tragic incidents in that stretch in the past because it's not pedestrian friendly. So this student team will help to conceptualize improvements to those intersections along the way and provide us with an improved street design that we could use to leverage some cooperation from the New York State Department of Transportation. I want to thank Mike Guyon for making time on Sunday to walk that 1 mile stretch twice over with the students, and to thank your wife for her patience while you did the second round with them. The collaboration is very close with the Highway Department on this project because we can't get it done just here in town on our own. So we hope we'll have some good community turnout to see the next stage in the conceptualizing process on the 20th.
Anything else?
No.
Then can I have a motion to go into executive session to discuss a matter of litigation?
So moved.
Second.
Deanne, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Malin?
Aye. Again, I do not expect that we will be coming back out into open session. I want to remind everybody that our next town board meeting will be Thursday, October 10th, because of Yom Kippur. Thursday, October 10th, here in this room at 7 p.m. Thank you all for being here. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
No.
No.
Oh, no, I can't. No, because we're going to executive session. Silly me. We'll get a motion to adjourn later. Thank you, everybody. See you on the 10th.